It's been about 2 years since I invested in a full Alexa Mini LF camera package, and with newer options available like the Alexa 35 and Venice 2, do I regret my decision? Well, let's talk about it. So I've gotten a lot of questions on whether I regret getting into the Mini LF when the Alexa 35 was right on the horizon. Why didn't I go Sony? How much of my work is shot using the LF? And we'll get to all that, but I wanted to do some reflecting on how the past few years have been with this camera. A lot of people assume that I just exclusively shoot ARRI now, and that couldn't be farther from the truth. To be totally honest, it just isn't the right tool for a lot of the work I do, and I would love to bring it out on every job I do, but there are a ton of reasons why I don't. And my biggest consideration is probably glass. Large format lenses are typically much larger and heavier than Super 35 options, and I'm not going to lug around a Vista Prime for some run and gun project at some conference. Another consideration is data. I prefer not shooting below quad 4, and although you still get a beautiful image out of ProRes 422, there's probably a better option than an Alexa if you're using that codec. This camera will finally be paid off in December, and I've debated whether it's time to move on to one of the newer options. The Venice 2 is probably the most versatile, with the expanded frame rates, adaptability with different resolution formats, single stage NDs, and not to mention the dual base ISO. That feature alone is probably what's kept me in the Sony ecosystem, since I'm able to accommodate a variety of lighting environments and gain even more flexibility with those larger fixtures. The Alexa 35 is also an enticing option with a higher dynamic range and the new reveal color science, which I'm still able to utilize when shooting an area wall with the Mini LF. A wild part of me almost wouldn't mind side grading to something like a Venice 2, considering the versatility and array of Sony cameras that I already own. But every time I go back and use this camera, all that doubt instantly goes away, and I remember why I love this camera. Plus, I'm still a big fan of large format, especially for commercial work. So last year, I did a rigging video on my typical Alexa build, and since then, I've added a few knickknacks that some of you might appreciate. So I'm gonna go ahead and strip this all down, take everything apart, and walk you through everything. So this is the Mini LF stripped down to almost its purest form. It basically just has the cage on it. If the camera were actually this small all the time, I probably would take it out with me on every shoot, but usually it's not. Usually it's pretty built up with, all the accessories and all the support that comes with it. So it ends up being a lot bigger and a lot heavier than this most of the time. So in my last video, I kind of mentioned this optional accessory bracket. This is the SAB1, and it just bolts under the MSB2 here. So this comes with the typical kit, and then this side bracket is optional. So this is actually where I mount a lot of my accessories. Basically, these two side brackets, I'm able to basically put everything I need just right on here. So to start off, I'll add my Teradek, and this is mounted using the kind of V-lock wedge mount that I mentioned previously from Wooden Camera. This basically just lives on the transmitter and just slots in. What I recently kind of upgraded most of my transmitters to are these kind of stubby antenna. They're just really low profile and they offer basically the same performance, but it is a lot nicer than having a kind of much longer antenna that is very, very prone to, being hit or nudged and accidentally breaking off. So these, very, very sturdy and very, very low profile, and I like them. Next, I'll mount the Teradek MDR, and this basically drives my motors for my Teradek RT, my wireless follow focus. Eventually, I'd like to maybe upgrade to an Hi-5 in the future, because it has obviously a lot more integration with the ARRI ecosystem. You have much more camera control with that unit, but for me, it's a really, really hard sell as a DP since I literally never use it. It's more for whoever I hire as an AC. It's more for them to basically control everything they need off the camera. Again, hard sell for me, but I like having nice gear for my crew. So next up, I'm going to mount my A-box, and for this, I usually like putting it on a 19mm rod, and so for that, I'll just use the RMB3 that's just right here on the back of the rear accessory bracket, the RAB. A lot of letters and a lot of acronyms with ARRI. But basically this thing is really nice because I can basically mount this almost anywhere in the camera, anywhere I need a 19mm rod. And you can even use a step-down adapter if you need to go to 15mm. But this is great. I have this on this camera. I have this on my FX9s. And again, just really, really handy for being able to place a rod anywhere I need. So next, I'm going to install the handle extension kit, and this thing is really nice because you can buy this, and ARRI will basically send you a variety of kind of different length extension units, and when you buy it, it comes with this foam insert, and you can actually just plop this directly into a 1170 Pelican. So that's also really nice for when you're storing it. And I really like using this because, one, it obviously extends the handle, and two, it adds more mounting points, and then that way I'm able to get a kind of more secure grip on the back, right behind the battery. So if I'm ever on an easy rig or on a data dolly, it's much easier manipulating the camera from the solid handle on the back as opposed to just grabbing the battery. I used to grab the battery, and I still do a lot of times, but it still has a little bit of play, to whereas using this is obviously a much more solid option. Another thing I want to note is that if you do want to use the handle extension kit, another thing you want to pick up is the CCH2 support. So this basically adds a second point of contact for that handle, so that way you're not just running off of one singular point of contact at the front and have a huge handle stemming off the back. So that way you just have a lot more support when you are picking up and using the handle. Sometimes I won't even add the extension that goes all the way around the battery. Sometimes I'll just use one unit just like this, just to have more surface area on the handle itself. So it makes it a little bit easier just to grab, and it makes, I mean, the ARRI handle itself is already solid, but this is nice. Also, if you have an easy rig, it kind of closes off that loop if you are just using the kind of stock grip. But again, sometimes I'll just rock it just like that. Ratworks actually has a really nice option because you tend to lose all these mounting points on the top plate just by using the CCH2 support unit. So Ratworks' option kind of extends the MAP2, and that way you kind of still retain a lot of those mounting points on the top of the camera. So the next thing I'm going to install is this Z-bar. So I actually really, really like this. I originally got this for my FX9 because, again, I use my FX9 all the time, and this is just super handy to have. It just mounts via two kind of 3/8 screws, and you can basically put this wherever you want for literally whatever you want. People use this for MDRs, people use this for literally anything, and what I really like using it for is kind of a little platform for audio. So audio people tend to really like me because I kind of dedicate this whole space just for them. I just need to figure out where to put it. So with a lot of the kind of real estate off the side already kind of being taken up, this is a great solution to kind of put whatever you need kind of anywhere you want. And to mount this, I'll actually mount another part of the handle extension unit. So this is actually just a shorter piece. And so since this mounts just via the 3/8 and with the locking pins, if I turn the camera on the side here, I can just mount this right to the SAB, also kind of anywhere I want. So by doing that, it kind of just sticks out here, and then I can mount the Z-bar kind of in any configuration, whether it's vertical or horizontal. Just kind of really depends on you. So this configuration is obviously very nice because, again, with the new kind of stubby, shorter antenna on the Teradek, it just fits right over the top. And then again, I usually am able to put audio's timecode boxes or audio hops just right here, and it's this perfect little solution and perfect little platform for them to get what they need on the camera. Since my A-box is on a 19mm rod, it is really easy just to kind of swivel it out of the way to access these ports if I need to, and then just kind of swivel it back into place. Finally, the last accessory that I'll mount is my monitor. This one's the same as I had in the last video. It's just a Cine 7. It does have the camera control license, so I'm able to manipulate the camera settings via the touchscreen. I know that they just kind of recently came out with their own collaboration with ARRI, and that option looks great too, but this is fine, so no really need for me to upgrade. So I mentioned these in my last video. These are just gear ties, and you can get them on Amazon. I really like using gear ties because they come in different sizes and they kind of keep everything together. What I usually like doing is, as I'm mounting all of my accessories where I like them, I kind of like cable managing as I go, and I use gear ties to kind of keep things together. I won't cinch them down all the way super tight until the very end, but these are still a very nice way of kind of keeping things generally in the right place so that they just don't fall apart. I can just kind of put them together loosely, and then as I add accessories, I'll kind of lay those cables kind of into that loop, And then once everything is said and done, I'll get the final size gear tie, and then I'll kind of cinch it down a little bit tighter so it doesn't go anywhere and it stays really, really tidy. Super important to cable manage your rigs. It always kind of pains me when I see a beautiful, piece of equipment, something like an Alexa, and the cables are just everywhere, and it's something that's just always kind of bothers me. So it's super important to keep your rigs clean. It not only does it look a lot better, but it's also, surprisingly functional. Not having just a bunch of cables being able to get snagged when you're walking around or anything like that. So by keeping everything tidy, you're staying organized, and how you do anything is how you do everything. One of the last things I'll mention is this Viewfinder eyecushion from Blue Star. It's kind of a small quality of life improvement, but it does make operating off of the EVF a lot more comfortable. And especially kind of when it's colder out in the winter months, it feels like a nice warm blanket kind of cushioning your eye. So that's pretty much it. Here's a rig that I'd be pretty happy with operating in the field. It's cable managed. It kind of has everything I need. I just recently used this on a recent commercial a week ago, and it performed great. So this is obviously a big rig, and it looks like we're shooting the next Dune movie. So if you're looking to stay light and nimble, this probably isn't the best option for you. Another big thing you have to consider is having enough support, both in terms of crew and equipment. There are jobs where the perfect camera is just a bare bones FX3, and oftentimes those projects are so much easier to manage since I'm able to fit my entire kit in one small roller. Even though a majority of my work is still primarily shot with the FX9, the Mini LF is just another tool. And what it really comes down to is picking the right tool for the job.